Mike Williams, are you human?
I'm staying human.
Collin MacGregor, are you human?
I am human and I'm in the light.
Well, you both better stay that way because this is Dying Light 2. Stay human, no colon, just words. And we're about to play. This save has been created using a previous version of this game. If you continue, it will be converted to a normal current format, but previous game versions won't be able to load it. Do you want to continue? Yes?
That's post-patch.
Do I?
You do.
Okay.
I got
Collin.
that was the error for when we were reviewing. So that's post-patch.
Yeah, okay. So they fixed that then, huh?
Yeah.
And if people don't know, this is Dying Light 2 Stay Human, like I just said, but this is the video game. This is a sequel to, what was it, 2012 when that game came? No, it would have had been much later than that, 2016 or something?
No, I think you're actually correct.
I'm actually correct, okay.
Because they supported Dying Light for a very long time.
And they created a sequel now called Dying Light 2. This is from Techland, the makers of Dead Island, but not Dead Island 2, a game that is definitely coming out one of these days. And we are here to do a little bit of a first bite, taking a look at some of the early gameplay. I believe this is within the first 10 hours of Dying Light 2. Like I said, the sequel to Dying Light 1, a video game about first-person parkour in a zombified city. This takes place like 16 years, I think. You've both been playing this, correct?
Yeah.
So it's about 16 years after the first game, yeah?
Yes.
They say directly. It's
I think it's 50. I think it's 15 years after the Horde virus broke out, like in the city, and took over everything.
Yeah, the first game had a really, really cool sort of setup, which was that a zombie outbreak had happened in like a European city during the Olympics, I think. And they cordoned off the entire city, trapped everybody inside with the zombies, and a warlord took over. You parachute in and all that. This is just much more classical. It's a zombie apocalypse. The intro to this game is super funny to me because it's like, yeah, all that stuff you did in that first game didn't matter for shit. Everybody died. The main character's dead. Yeah. They came up with the vaccine for the zombie virus, and then I guess didn't use it because the world ended.
So they did use it, but so the plot that they lay out is they came up with the vaccine, they used it, but then the military kept experimenting with the virus behind the scenes and created a worse version.
So this is the worst version of the virus. This is the Omicron Dying Light virus.
Correct. And they couldn't stop that version. And you are now Aiden, who is a pilgrim, which is this game's versions of the familiar stalker concept.
Yeah.
As a pilgrim, the pilgrim is these are the people who move between settlement to settlement and go out into the world and forage for stuff, which makes you super special. But then plot machinations make you end up in the city,
I'm pregnant. I found out this morning.
which is where this is, which is like Haran in that at the early part of the outbreak, they locked everyone in. So everyone in the city is infected, but they're just sort of staving off the effects.
Yeah, because being the Dying Light terminology, Colin, do you want to explain that real quick?
Sure.
The effect of light.
So, in the first game, when you got in, what people were looking for was called Antizen in the first game, which is like just like a Zombrex. If you played Dead Rising, it's like a shot that basically makes you immune to the virus. The big twist in this one, in Dying Light, is that you're actually, like, everyone's got something called like a biomarker, which is, if you look at Steven's like wrist, it's the like little
not that button.
Not that button. It's on his weapon holding arm, on the right arm. It's a
yeah, it's kind of there. It's tough to see.
Yeah.
You can't zoom.
It's got a green light on it, and everyone is basically infected in this city already. And if the biomarker basically shows your infection rate, so as long as you're in UV light or you're in the light itself, you are unable to change. But once it gets dark, if you're not in UV light, you'll have an actual timer that'll tick down. And if it hits 0, you just turn into a zombie when you're in night. So they made the nighttime a little bit more intense that way, where you have to kind of like, especially early on when your timer's like super low, you have to like manage your timer as you're like trying to figure out like, all right, well I got to go into this base and I gotta clean it out before my timer goes off, otherwise I turn. And you have like, you'll find items to like stave off the infection while you're at night, but early, like they're a lot more common the later you get. But like early on, it's like it can be really intense.
So I will state from the moment that this is a mechanic I absolutely hate.
Yeah,
it is new for this version, and very early on, it is clearly there to gate you from. Like, if you are a veteran player of Dying Light,
I'm sure there are many, because like you said, they really supported that first game. That seemed very popular.
Yeah, so this mechanic seems to me that it was made essentially to sort of give veteran players a little bit more difficulty to work with, because otherwise maybe they wouldn't be as afraid of the night as they should be. It's not just night. It is also if you go into any area that is dark. Like, so if you're in the day and you go into outpost or a building and there's no UV light, it starts counting down as well there.
Which is super annoying, by the way. Like, you could be like, there's a lot of like little, like the first Dying Light, there's a lot of like just like little buildings and nooks and crannies. Especially once you get to the game's broken up into 2 districts. Old Villador is very much classic Dying Light, where it's a lot of like 4 and 5 story buildings, and it's a lot of older architecture. And if you've played Dying Light 1, you'll feel very at home in Old Villador. But then like the Central Loop is like Manhattan. It's like downtown New York. It's skyscrapers and like you're so many like inside areas in that, and like going into those, like it's cool to explore them, but then you just get like a random timer on you that you have to see. What you just did there was crush shrooms to stave off infection.
UV shrooms with a Z, which is very stupid.
Yeah. So Steven, as Steven's playing here, you'll see the little skull marker. That's the immunity countdown timer thing.
Yeah, on the center middle of the screen there at the top.
And I'm kind of with Mike on this one. I like the idea in concept, but the thing is they've already made like a lot of the infected way stronger than they used to. Like, so we were just talking about this before we went live, but if you've played Dying Light 1, then you know volatiles are like the final stage of infection. They're like the big boys. They're like the very like muscular. They're very fast. They're like in all the promo art. They're like the really scary monsters that you need to avoid in Dying Light's universe. But in the first game, they didn't really fucking matter that much. Once you reached about the halfway point, you could body one pretty sufficiently with like a lead pipe if your stats were good enough or your weapon was good enough. That is not the case in this one. They have made a lot of the infected way more dangerous at night, and the volatiles will like kill you in like 2 or 3 hits.
So Steven is fighting. Well, just kill,
murdered,
just fucking annihilate because I got an electric stick.
That is one of the new additions. What they did is essentially they put volatiles up to the top, and then they added a bunch of different versions of zombies sort of in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
And that Steven just murdered was essentially the old volatiles for this game.
Yeah, it's like the infected hierarchy is interesting, and like the different infected types you come across are like, yeah, they're really like they don't really go out of their way to do anything interesting outside of like the anomalies, which are just bosses. You still have your classic. This one shoots slime at range. This one blows up when you get close. This one's got a big old hammer and he's slow. But like they're fine. I mean, those are just staples, I guess, of the genre. Thanks to Left 4 Dead.
Yeah, your special infected, your boomers, your tanks, your witches.
Yeah. The volatiles are basically you need to run on sight if they spot you and they start chasing you. And like that's great. I love that there is an infected, especially at night, that you need to like be genuinely worried about. But then you also have to manage the timer, which can be a little bit of a slog because now you're not only trying to like stay out of the sight range of volatile, you're trying to manage this timer that'll just kill you anyway if you're just unlucky. Steven's about to alert a screamer, which is that one off to the left there. That one right there. It'll start a chase sequence. And
I don't know what you're talking about. That was fine. I didn't do anything wrong.
I mean, that's fine.
And it's essentially a GTA. It's the same. Like the more you do, the higher the bar.
Yeah, the zombie cops come at you.
See, now they can't come to you because you're fine.
Yeah.
But like level 1 chase, Steven, they can probably get away from that relatively easily.
Yeah.
Ooh, crystals. Yeah, this game also has magic crystals in it.
Yeah, like this is a chemical area, which feels like more of the kind of...
Oh, that's even more... No, that's like 100... The chemicals are like... We were talking about gatekeeping, but the chemicals are like the most extreme version of gatekeeping. Because if you're in a chemical area, it speeds up your timer by like 3 times.
Oh, does it? Hey,
yeah.
What if I told you that this is the first chemical area I've ever been in?
I would be surprised if you haven't done a ton of exploring at night.
No, I have not. This is the first time I've really done much exploring at night up until now.
I mean, Mike, what do you think of the kind of like combat and fighting the infected and the general like? Because they made a big show about the whole parkour combat. And
yes.
I'll be honest, the only move I really used was the drop kick and then the jump over a person into a drop kick.
So they show you that first.
Yeah. And they say, this is the basis of parkour combat. And it's like, what is that? What are you talking about? What is this?
And to be honest, it's kind of a little kludgy on PC because it's forward and jump at the same time, but the window for it is so tight.
Yeah.
So you're basically you're just doing that, which is you block, perfect block to stun somebody, then vault over them and drop kick somebody else, and you do that over and over again.
And
or
it does
you
a
don't
lot
bother with that.
And it does a lot of damage. Is kind of one of the best advantages, and it doesn't take away from your durability of your weapons, because like Dying Light 1, like Dead Island Riptide, all of your weapons in this game have like limited durability. I've not found a way to just actually repair one yet, but you can craft weapons and buy new ones and modify them.
So you can repair a weapon a limited amount of times. You repair weapons by adding mods to them.
Okay.
It's a weird system because you'd think like, oh well, I got this cool machete, I want to slap an electric thing on it, but if you actually wait and you look at the mod, it'll say like plus 50 durability onto the mod, and that means it'll increase the amount of durability the weapon has left. And you can also get a mod to reduce for, I was going to say exotic, but that's Destiny. For artifacts, which is the highest tier of items you can get, it's the gold one.
It's
Everybody
blues, it's purples, it's golds, there's some gray.
Artifacts are the gold ones. You can get a mod to put on the grip to like drastically reduce their durability when you're using them, which is nice. Bows do not have durability.
Oh,
and I'm gonna throw a pro tip out for everybody. Once you start getting a bow and you get the ability to start speccing into a bow, don't sleep on the bow. It's probably one of the strongest weapons because A, it doesn't have durability. B, arrows are pretty easy to craft. And C, if you can one-shot headshot enemies, it's a silent kill.
Listen,
it won't alert enemies.
It's not an open world game unless there's a bow. So, like, we all know that they're the best. They're all over the place. We love them. We love the bow. Year of the Bow, 2022.
How are you two feeling about the whole like gear and crafting and numbers, and because that was part of Dying Light, but it feels like it's way more part of it now. Like now we have like now it looks like we have like artifact sets and like there's like classes you can like more or less spec into with your armor, and I don't know, it just felt like none of it was terribly useful. Even like the buffs are nice, but like none of it felt like it was terribly needed through my playthrough of the game.
I mean, it's nice. They've definitely, for this game, leaned into... Steven, they just picked up a inhibitor. You get a couple of these, and then you can use them to increase stamina, or you... what's the other one?
Health and stamina.
Yeah.
They're basically like almost to a T. Actually, they're almost exactly like the orbs you get from the shrines in Breath of the Wild, because you need like 3 of them, and each one you can put into either health or stamina, which is exactly like Breath of the Wild.
And basically, increasing those increases your overall immunity level. Again, when I brought up that it's a gating mechanic, it's just straight up a gating mechanic. The higher level you are, the more immunity you have, the longer you can stand the dark.
Yep, and there's even some there's stamina for your climbing. There's like the stamina can be really rough early on.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And they gatekeep. That's another way that a lot of the activities, because you'll notice if you look at like the map, sometimes if you find like a POI that's like colored red, that means your stamina isn't high enough to complete to do the thing. There's like you can't like do clever parkour tricks to like negate that. You have to like follow the route.
Listen, if you really didn't like the stuff in Breath of the Wild that was like, I'm climbing a mountain and then I fall down halfway through and also my weapon broke and I have to go find a new one, if you hated that stuff, get ready to hate it in this game too, because it's basically the identical idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. The gaminess is I'd say what the improved here. Like they have a much, I think, stronger loop than Dying Light 1.
Agreed.
But there are a lot of things that you have to, a lot of the open world, hey, let's do this. Like, okay, here's a windmill that you have to open up. Here's a bandit camp that you need to clear by killing the leader. Here's there's a lot of that.
Yeah, the windmills basically work like the towers in Far Cry 3 and 4, or even honestly, even in Breath of the Wild, the towers that you use to like unlock the waypoints in that game, where it's like there's a minor puzzle, usually a platforming thing, you get to the top, manage your stamina on the way up there, then you flip a switch and then it activates like a whole area will be like brought under your control more or less, like humans will be able to live there.
And that can... And as you kind of like get deeper into the game, you'll unlock. So there's 2 factions in the game. You'll unlock the ability to kind of assign each area has like several districts, and then you can give a faction control of that district. And whichever the 2 districts are like the peacekeepers, which are basically like an authoritarian, more military group, and then just like survivors who are like free people, like they're a little disorderly, they're a little rowdy, but they're like just normal people trying to just get by.
So, yes, 2 things there. One, it was bold of them to try and lockpick a thing with like 50 seconds left.
Yeah, they're very. You know what? Steven shows no fear when it comes to lockpicking.
No, not at all.
I admire that.
Listen, I love Skyrim. I'm on the record as loving Skyrim. It's one of my favorite video games ever made. I enjoy it. I love the lockpicking minigame in there. It's not boring at all. And I was like, well, I need to express myself in Dying Light 2 with the exact same lockpicking minigame in this one.
But in the previous section, Stephen, they walked by a zombie that was sleeping. That's also a new thing. Sometimes you'll go inside places and there are zombies that are sleeping and they're not moving at all. And if you actually crouch and walk past them, they're not going to wake up.
I did not realize
care about that.
Nope. I did not realize that there was an alarm triggered to that door that was going to wake all of them up. I was like, well, this is fine.
The stealth is a much bigger part of the game than I was surprised by. Like, so there are areas that like, so when it turns to night, not only are there's like 10 times more infected on the streets and they're more dangerous and you have to worry about your meter to turn, but infected like hideouts, like areas where the infected would chill during the day, empty out for the most part, and you can like sneak in to try to get like inhibitors, which will increase your stats as we showed before, or like higher tier loot, or just valuables to like turn into like to sell. And stealth is a really big part of that. As Mike alluded to, there's a bunch of sleeping zombies now. You can now like in like the classic open world fashion, you can sneak behind them and insta kill them as long as your level matches their level or is above their level to like instantly kill them and not alert everybody.
Right. Also very Far Cry-y now, especially as Far Cry has leaned harder into the RPG type stuff. Like this game, Dying Light was already kind of doing that before.
Yes.
I completely fucking forgot what the dropkick button is.
With wow.
Okay, this is gonna go great too. No, I'm fine. I'm fine.
You need to run.
No,
you need to run.
No. I can fight. I can win.
So
let the fries
healing
hit you.
isn't instant. So
No. Hey, Mike. No, it is not. Actually, now that you mention that,
yeah. So Steven,
running is
low on
instant.
health.
Hey, what's up?
You found us a UV.
Oh.
So UV purple is safe.
Purple is safe because that means UV.
And zombies they can't. Once they hit a purple zone, they're just like, oh, we can't come in at all.
Except also zombies just walk around. This is a thing about Dying Light 2, especially. When I first saw this game at E3, the last E3 that is ever going to happen, they were really talking up the story being like a major part of this game and how like important it was going to be. The story of Dying Light 2 so far, I don't want to be mean, but it is, I would say, at best, very campy.
No one has shit so much they stop being hungry, right? But in 3 hours, everyone's asses will explode like shit geezers.
It's a silly game, and the rules of why some zombies can be out during the day and why others recoil from it like Dracula, I'm not quite clear on.
My understanding is it's the later stage of infection.
Okay.
You cannot
so
become
this
more determined.
this is
the boss.
This is the infected. So for human enemies, there's the bandit camps and leaders. You have to kill the leader in order to take over the camp. This is the infected version of that.
Okay.
In that there is a boss enemy, and trying to kill the others if there are other infected around isn't really worthwhile because they can just bring them back to life.
Oh, interesting. This is the first one of these I've fought so far, actually.
Okay, yeah, they're really not bad, and this is level 1 one. Just it looks like it's flying around. Blow it up, it's all right. And the others, zombies can climb stuff, but they climb very slowly, so it's really not that much of a problem.
Yeah. So the story, having literally just beaten the game before we hopped on, something that they talked a lot about was choice. Like, I have heard the word choice in like every marketing material, every like press release, everything has been about the game. And I will say the game has a lot of choices, like story wise. And I have to admit, like, while the writing is campy, and there's some real groaners and real groaning lines in there that'll make you roll your eyes.
Groaning light, that's what they call it.
They do make good on the promise that a lot of the choices you make, even like early-ish on, will kind of impact the overall story. Because the ending I got is probably only possible because I made a choice early on.
Hey, did the boss zombie fall through the floor of the earth?
He might come back after you kill the Horde.
Okay.
I don't entirely remember. I know he's gonna go away if you don't kill him in 3 minutes because the light will go. The light will drive him away. But yeah, the story, like the choices are there. But the faction choices, like.
So that was what I was about to say was what Steve was supposed to do. There are oil patches on the ground. You also find. If you use your detective sense or whatever, the survivor
vision. It's not an open world game unless you have fucking Witcher vision in it either.
But there's that little canister right there next to it, and the idea was just grab the canister of gas, ignite it, and then throw it onto the oil piles, and all the zombies die.
Yeah, you can manually ignite them in your hands by holding square. I think your boss actually bugged out.
Yeah, I could have sworn I saw his icon below the floor there for a little while. I think he did fall through through the earth, and you know.
That's a great time to bring out bugs because I was gonna bring it up a little bit later, but this is a perfect example. Dying Light is buggy, and like I'm fine with bugs. I understand that it's a part of game making. It'll happen, and things will slip through. But if you are picking this up day one, I'm not entirely sure how big the patch is, if there's a day one patch and what it's going to address. But I hit some pretty substantial bugs.
I think we all did to a certain degree.
I would have ones where like the audio and dialogue wouldn't play. I had ones where I legitimately could not progress the quest. I had the final boss get stuck in the wall on like 20 minutes into the fight, forcing me to redo the entire fight. Like the game has some pretty bad bugs, but like the general in the parkouring, the gripping, the grabbing, the sliding, like that's great.
And if you'll notice, Steven is always running. They fix it. So back in the day, sprint was the classic click the stick in to sprint. That's gone. You're always sprinting unless you're like crouched and just feathering the analog stick.
Literally one of the first things I noticed and made a note of in this game, because that is a great little change. I really enjoy that.
So I don't want to burst both of y'all's bubble.
Nope.
But there is a sprint button in this game.
What?
You move so fast as it is.
You unlock it.
There's a faster, yeah.
There's a parkour one that will make Aiden run even faster, but it consumes stamina.
Well, by default, Aiden already moves like a train, and it rules. It's great.
You more or less use that one to like quickly like rev yourself up for a jump, like a long jump, or like to get away from a lot of enemies. But like, if they have improved anything in this game, it's the parkour. It is so much like it can be wonky at times because there's so much to grab onto and you can do, especially when you start unlocking multiple skills. But once you get the hang of it, oh man, it feels so good to just like chain everything together flawlessly over like a horde of zombies, or like if you're being chased.
And the level design, again, I want to shout that out, is they've clearly looked at every section of the game and been like, all right, how is the player going to get around here? Is there a way to jump up onto something? Is there a way to get away from the ground if they need to? So
very easy to get up off the ground too. Like Aiden will latch onto just about anything Assassin's Creed style.
Yep.
Yeah. And then you'll get further tools later, and I don't want to spoil it, but you will get additional like parkour tools, quotation marks, that'll open up even more traversal options. Like I was surprised how much more new shit the game was throwing at me movement wise, like 30-40 hours into the game. Like I would keep getting like new like pieces of gear or things I can upgrade to like improve my mobility. And then if you like we mentioned factions, if you side with the free folk and you start like throwing districts their way or facilities their way, you will unlock they'll reward you with a bunch of like parkour items around the map, so you can get like jump pads that'll like spring Aiden like 40 feet into the air, or like zip lines everywhere, or like there's like these duffel bags you can grab onto and then ride them down into the street and safely land on the ground like several stories up without taking any damage. It's very fun.
Have you seen a lot of that, Mike?
Some of it. I've seen just a bit of it. I will say, so we were also talking about the factions. So there are two main factions, technically three factions in the game. The first faction is survivors. Those are just normal folks. Then there's the peacekeepers, who are cops and military, very jackboot kind of dudes.
They're a classic fascist group.
Right. Then there are the renegades, who are not... so the first two you can align with. Every time you take over a territory spot using a windmill or whatever, you can decide this area is for either the peacekeepers or the survivors. And
this worked out really well last time, so...
Yeah, and then the renegades are just the full-on Mad Max chaos
Yeah, war
they're
boys.
all evil.
Yeah.
You can't talk with them, whatever. But the choice between the peacekeepers and the survivors, I asked Collin if there was really a choice, and it's really not. Like, it is definitely a binary, light dark, Paragon Renegade choice, in that the survivors are just people and the peacekeepers are fascist thugs.
Yeah. There is no kind of, they make no bones about it. The first time they introduce you to the PKs, the peacekeepers, they basically, like, the kind of your buddy, your sidekick character in this game is just like straight up like, yeah, these guys fucking suck anyway.
Real quick, two things. One, Steven, they're about to turn into a zombie in 4K. And two, we're about to see something interesting if they can't get out of this building. So if you're in a building, I mentioned that day and night cycle, if you're in a building and that building goes to daylight when you're inside of it, all those infected on the street and the volatiles are going to come inside to where you are. And it's going to... I've had it happen a few times. And
use your vision to see where the door is. Oh, Lord.
Oh, there it is. Good call. Good call.
Yeah. So that's, again, the detective vision, survivor vision, whatever it's called, marks things like that, and you definitely need it for moments like that, where your immunity is critical and you need to get out.
Yeah. Early on, some of the setup for this game is like you were like the thing that you are trying to figure out in this game is where you're trying to find a person. I won't go into 2 minutes detail here, but you were clearly as part of some kind of like zombie vaccine trial or something. And I straight up thought that early in this game, they were going to be like, yeah, and the experiments gave you zombie vision, and that's why you can see through walls. And at least so far, they haven't done that at all. In fact, it doesn't even seem like you're infected, because you get infected in the very early stages of the game, which is why you have to have this marker.
You are very something. They do make a point of the fact that whatever the scientists did to you has made you hardier, faster, and stronger than the average person. But you're not immune, no.
No, not the zombie virus. It's a major factor of the game, actually. And I will say, like I said, I think a lot of the writing in this game is super campy and silly. I do like these campfires, which seem to have broken here. No, she's singing. Okay.
She's singing.
You can find these survivor camps during the daytime because the survivors will just be out and about. You can find these survivor camps, and sometimes they're telling stories about, like, this is my villain origin story. This is why I am a survivor and stuff like that. And sometimes it's just a lady singing. Those are the two events that I found so far. And those will refill your health naturally without you having to waste resources if you decide to stick around and sit by one.
Something I really like about this game is actually that I think Techland has done a really good job of making this open world feel a lot more lived in than a lot of open world games typically do, especially post-apocalyptic ones. Like, there's zombies everywhere, but, like, I frequently just came across just, like, survivors roaming, doing their own thing, chilling on the rooftops, telling stories, like, fighting off bandits fighting off zombies. Like, they do a good job of, like, making the city feel populated in, like, a scarcest kind of way, because there's obviously more zombies than people, but you'll often, like, just be running through the rooftops, and then you'll see, like, people gardening, or you'll see people, like, just kind of chilling. You'll see, like, a merchant, like, kind of roaming around and shit. Like, they do, like, a good job of really kind of, like, selling you on this world, even if it's, like, a very, like, copy, like, we've seen these kind of zombie games before, we've seen these open world zombie games a dime a dozen, but I think presentation wise they've done a really superb job, and I think visually it's a very nice game.
Oh, it's a beautiful game. It's a
very pretty
yeah.
game. I'm on PlayStation 5, and I've had outside of, like, the bugs, which are not frame rate or graphical issues, like, I've had smooth gameplay the entire time.
I love what I'm seeing here right now. This is just kind of like gorgeous, beautiful beautiful. Like the way the flesh is rotting off of this ragdolling corpse in front of me as he like farts his way into an explosion. I think that just there's some kind of like understated beauty about that. You know, it's like very Dark Souls like in the sense that, you know, you can really see the fallen majesty of this fucking bald ass dirt zombie on the ground here.
So, I mean, I love me some dirt zombies.
So, Stephen, this area is one of those open world things. This is an evacuation convoy. You will run across these medical things, and I don't think they're bespoke, but randomly generated, like Survivor. Like a survivor's like, please help me out. All that open world stuff.
That's about the quality of voice acting some of these characters bring.
So some of there's a lot of that in the open world that you can just ignore. And you also saw before that Steven was doing this correctly. There was a pile of oil on the ground, and they lit the pile on fire and then started pushing zombies into it.
I can tell what you were doing during this game. Where you're just running through and you see someone like, help me, I'm being attacked. Nah, I'm good. You know, I'm on this rooftop, it's kind of high. I'm going to you look like you got this. Goodbye.
And they will hit you, when you have moments like that, they will hit you with the, event failed. Like,
yeah.
Like, oh, you just obviously let that extra survivor just die. And yes, I did. Why aren't they on the roofs as well? It doesn't make any sense.
Mike is a very big and well-known horror fan who hates people who are stupid in horror movies. So Mike, I want to see Mike play through one of these games because I would love to just see Mike completely skip every side activity, just go straight for the gun, just leave the city immediately the second he's able.
Yeah, that's the push and pull I have. One, I am an open world completionist. I like to try to get everything done, but
500 hours, Mike. 500 hours.
But for these events, I know that the game is just creating them on the fly, so I tend to just ignore them.
Sure.
Because again, as Steven brought up, in a horror movie, I don't get the, hey, let's go try to save a person and thus get 3 people killed trying to save 1 person. It just doesn't make sense. It's not pragmatic. And so, Survivor, what are you doing on the ground? I'm up here on the roof. You should be up on the roof too.
That zombie just completely took your spear with no hesitation at all, Steven. I saw that, by the way.
I think I hit the cop car, I think what happened, and then he completely null-sold my fucking Hitman magic coin. I'm having a real good time over here, Collin. If you couldn't tell, I'm doing great. Just kind of like really, really kind of laying the groundwork for people out there as they get this game in about 2 days, depending on when you're watching this. You know, all you folks out there will have a real good baseline of tips and tricks to use, like the ones that I've been doing on this stream here, on this video.
Like Steven plays like a mad. Like there's no subtlety or
it's the complete opposite of my playstyle. I'm so like I will spend like as much time on the rooftops dictating my path to avoid as many infected as I humanly can. And Steven, God bless their soul,
like on the ground,
fuck it, I'm the infected. You're locked in this city with me.
Yeah. I think you're supposed to be like Daredevil. But Steven plays like the Punisher. We're just like, what's happening here? What is this?
It is so intimidated by their strength that it just can't help itself.
Is it actually hurting you?
Look, just gave up. He's just like, yeah, I can't win against them. This isn't working. This isn't worth it.
I'm learning so much.
Follow me to freedom!
Infected can't break a block. This is wild.
This is so stupid.
But again, the idea is generally
for sure.
You're going up against more than one. So you're probably taking damage. Also, they can climb buildings. They can climb cars. They're very slow at it, but they can do it. So it's not like as soon as you get up on a truck like over there that you're completely... I can't talk about being completely safe when you're doing this.
Mike's trying to sell that, like, how dangerous the zombies are. How
they're so reactive, you know?
Steven's out here immediately breaking. You know what? I'm the guide writer, and I'm just learning things that I just didn't know that you could just... I don't know why I was playing the game wrong the whole time. I just need to hold the block button.
Anyway, bye.
So that was a firecracker, which, yeah. Absurd. So now,
mine now.
That Steven has cleared out the... Wait, what are you doing? Go back there.
What? Did I not already get that?
I thought you didn't get the... Did you go into the truck? Or did I miss it? Yeah, you did. You did. Never mind. You did.
It's still highlighted, so it is kind of unclear.
Yes.
I think so it's still highlighted for me and a bunch of mine. I think it resets.
Okay.
Because how the leveling works is, because there is leveling, you have a player level which scales.
When did I get goggles?
Your outfit's just... I love that your outfit's just a jersey and goggles.
You probably picked it up.
Yeah, it auto-equipped because I picked it up off the ground. Yeah, you're good point.
Yeah, but so in the game you have like a player level, and that like all of the gear you get once you... So if you hit player level 3, all the gear you'll get from then on will drop at player level 3, so forth. So I'm at player level 6 right now, and I've beaten the game, and from my understanding is it just continues to scale. So I believe those are like just like an infinite source of loot to like come back to.
If you go back to the weapons, Steven, go back to your weapons. So there's slots and stuff, but also if you go to some of the gear, go over to the right to your gear. Right. Keep going. Yes, there we go. You'll see tank, ranger, medic.
Right.
Those are the classes. Brawler, but by equipping certain gear set to a certain class, it'll specialize you in that area, separate from the skill trees, which are purely split into health, the brawling stuff, and parkour stuff.
Right. And the reason that matters is because the game has 4-player co-op, which Collin and I have not been able to test yet. I don't know if you have gotten a chance to play it, Mike.
It's not in.
Yeah.
They said early that co-op would not be in until I think day one or after the review.
Right.
After the reviews thing.
They actually emailed us last night to ask us if we wanted to basically send us a separate build of the game where co-op was working. And we just couldn't make it because of timing. It was a very last minute sort of setup there. Very clearly, just like I'm sure, the games are hard to make, and it seems like they're just having trouble getting that running before launch, but it sounds like it's supposed to be in there with a patch. But for full disclosure, we haven't had time to test out the co-op because it's not working in the PlayStation version yet.
But from my understanding, you can go through the entire story with your friends. All of your character and weapon progression and whatever will carry over. Or you lit something. There you go. Will carry over. The only thing that doesn't carry over when you play co-op is story progression. So if Steven and I, we both started a new game, if the three of us all started a new game to play together, we will only make progress story-wise on whoever is the host account, but we will keep our player progression.
Right. Steven, you really need to be, especially since you're using this cattle prod, watch the stuff on the ground. You literally just lit yourself on fire.
I think I hear some dudes, so I should show off, because it's not just zombies either. There is human on human violence in this game. What are you, sir? Okay, wait, where are these guys? I hear bad guys.
They're behind you.
Oh, that's a human. Okay.
The back where you just were, they're right there.
So this is where a lot of that parkour combat that you were talking about earlier comes in. If I can there we go. And then we do that, and then I miss completely.
Yep.
You did the vault thing, at least.
Yeah, I did. I vaulted over him.
No, at this point, Steven could just block and let the zombies and slowly whittle each other down as they are doing.
Yeah. I just want to show off like one successful drop kick here.
Jump.
Yeah. Because it is kind of cool. It's a cool little thing, even though it's kind of silly to like stand here and let them kind of whack at you, try to get that, and then try to get the hit
so
there.
For the
There you go.
parkour thing to work, there you go. There we go. That's it.
It's cool when you can get it to work, but you have to time it because you have to parry. You can't just block.
You have to parry, then you have to vault over one and hit the button again to hit another.
Yeah.
And the benefit of this is, as you can see, there was a thing saying, hey, your weapon's almost broken. When you're doing that, one, it does a lot of damage. Two, while you're in the air, you're sort of out of the line of fire. And three, you're not using your weapon. Meaning you're dealing damage without worrying about durability.
Right. Yeah. Especially on a weapon like this. I actually kind of want to switch weapons real quick, because I would rather modify that one to repair it, now that I know that you can repair, than let it break here on these dipshits that I'm basically just fighting for the sake of it.
So the thing with the combat is, I think one of my favorite things with the combat is the ragdolls and like the actual like animations in the combat are very fun. You can, once you start like really getting a hang of the combat and start getting like other weapons, you can tell that Techland put kind of like a lot of love into like the damage reflected when you kill someone. Like you will just outright decapitate people if you have like a certain weapon, or you'll like hack limbs off, or if you get a two-handed weapon, which is my favorite weapons to use, you will just send people flying in the air when you hit them with it. And I've like cut entire people in half with like a big ass battle axe, and like that's where I got hooked on the combat, is like just seeing like the dumb ragdoll like physics that I'm like making when I'm gonna kill people.
So Steven killed the first guy, but there was a guy essentially with a big orange thing on his back. That was the dude that called all of these others. Basically, Steven came across that person, and he pulled the big orange thing off his back, and he cranks it up, and it makes a lot of noise and calls everybody else.
It's the classic open world alarm guy that you gotta kill first.
You gotta kill the alarm guy first.
The bandit version of the screamer.
Yeah,
right.
I swear, if you have played an open world game, you know none of the mechanics, the basic mechanics in this game.
Yeah, this is kind of a hodgepodge, and you know, some of those things were actually literally stuff that they set with things like even Dead Island before Dying Light. Oh shit, I've never seen that before. But like this game is a very big hodgepodge of just like open world mechanics that you will recognize, like we've said before, from Far Cry, from
Some smarter.
yeah, Jesus, there's a lot of them is the thing. A lot of mechanics that you'll recognize from Far Cry, from Breath of the Wild, from all Assassin's Creed, a lot of that stuff. And they kind of just commit to it is one of the nice things. It's like they've got their own little wrinkles here and there, with the skill trees being set to combat and to parkour. And you get, in the very Oblivion / Morrowind style of things, you get more XP for doing each. So every time I'm parkouring or pulling myself up a thing or jumping, I'm getting parkour experience. Every time I'm hitting a guy, I'm getting combat experience. And that is, I believe, doubled at night.
Yes.
That's one of the big advantages of going out at night, is you get an XP boost. Obviously, it's more dangerous, so there's a greater chance that you'll die and won't be able to bank all that XP.
And that's why I think they added the night immunity thing, because otherwise I feel like veteran players would just stay out at night, period, and just run around and essentially power level themselves.
Yeah, and that is kind of, if I remember correctly, that is what a lot of players did in the first game.
Oh, yes. Like, once you became a veteran in Dying Light, it was always better to go out at night, because you get better zombies, better gear, and it was just 100%. So this is one of those things that I was talking about, where there's a survivor
who's just on the street, just not on the rooftops, can't learn, clearly does not know Mike Williams.
He did not go to the Mike Williams School of Zombie Survivology.
Yep. So you got a good stuff for saving them, But generally what ends up happening to me is I hear the survivor go like, help! And then I jump over and keep going, and then it goes, survivor failed or something like that.
Well, that's not my problem. They should have done better. That's not my problem.
And yes, I should probably do more to help them out, but there are certain things that I know are just like, oh, this is the game giving me something to do, and I'm fine. It's okay.
How do I do this?
I mean, overall, though, I'm really enjoying. I've enjoyed. I guess I'm at the end because I just beat it. I enjoyed Dying Light 2. Like, I know it sounds like we're ragging on it, and I have been ragging on some like the bugs and all that, but like, it's a very competent, fun game.
It's very good. Yeah, it's fun.
It's very silly in some spots. There's some very like weird, like the main story isn't that good, but a lot of the side stories are a lot more interesting. There's a lot of fun zombie references to other games and movies you'll come across if you do the side quests.
This is the windmill.
Yeah,
this is actually the first one you do, and Steven doesn't have to do well. Oh wait,
I don't know. I might have skipped the first one. I've done a couple of these, but I might have tried the first one and then not figured it out at first, and then I think I figured out a later one.
Okay, yeah. So this is the first windmill that you're supposed to activate. And that's how it works. You basically have like a jumping puzzle to get to the top. And then when you do that, survivors are like, oh man, the windmill's back. Let's come and build stuff. We never
I find it very difficult that they couldn't have figured out how to get up
This
there.
is what I'm saying. It's like, are you telling me literally? And I think Steven may have walked by the people, but there are people the first time you run by, because you're sent towards this windmill, and they're like, hey man, why don't you go up there and fix the windmill? Like, what are you guys doing here? You're just standing.
It's 3 jumps.
Y'all built the whole town and you just couldn't build a ladder? Like, you just couldn't, it was just an impossibility. And then if you played Phoenix Rising, Immortals Phoenix Rising, a game I will now plug here because I always will plug that game.
That's a great game.
Yes.
Yeah, you're in safe company with Mike Williams.
There's a mechanic. So unlike Far Cry or like a lot of the tower games where like you find a tower and then you unlock all the icons in the area, this one does the fun thing where you have to manually look for them. So what they're doing right now, what Steven's doing right now, is they're looking through their binoculars, and as the rectangle gets smaller, it'll focus on a point of interest, and then it'll mark it on your map. Until then, you'll only discover it by either coming across it naturally, or it'll be labeled as a question mark. I know people don't like this. I like this because it gives me a better lay of the land, and a better kind of idea instead of just like I clear the tower and everything just shows up on my map and overwhelms me. Because you can kind of like keep your map pretty clean if you really just don't care about a lot of this stuff. You don't have to like stand on the tower for 20 minutes looking in every direction.
And you'll also see from here as Steven is scrolling around, there's a lot of color to this game.
Oh,
like, totally.
Yeah. It's a very pretty game.
They do the whole reclaimed wilderness kind of thing.
Thankfully, thank God.
And this is what's the name of it? Villador. Is almost European in style in its architecture.
Yeah, they talk about New Paris, so I assume this is on the European mainland, but I don't think they ever
European.
Okay, they never specifically go out of their way and say this is next door to blah blah blah.
No.
Yeah. So it's very European style buildings, and then Collin says the city is a city. So
yeah. It's a very colorful game and a very pretty game. Even on on next gen consoles specifically. Obviously, I haven't is it coming to PlayStation 4? I'm not 100%. Don't have the thing.
Actually, don't know. Yeah,
but
it's definitely on PC, PlayStation 5, and Xbox Series X/S. So,
but it's a very fun game. It's a very pretty game, and it's got its quirks, but when it comes to open world games, and there's so many of these, I think Techland has done a really job, kind of refining their formula, and kind of delivering this open world parkour zombie game. It has some issues. I'm not a big fan of how Night is handled, but
see, I actually do like how Night is handled. I like having those restrictions, to be completely honest with you.
And you saw as Steven was going through the binoculars and finding a bunch of stuff. There's a lot of like the metro stations are fast travel points.
Yeah.
And then like one of them was like a water tower. Part of it is once you sort of claim a section for the people, then you also need to bring resources to them, and it's sort of a passive base building. And it's funny, see, like this part right here, the question mark down there, this is a convoy, and this is obviously because you were supposed to fill that windmill first. This is the first like real convoy that you come across with the heavy down there, the meaty boy with the hammer right there. And see that big oil patch. Oh God, what are you doing? That big oil patch is a patch of oil that you're supposed to use to light the zombies on fire.
No fear. Never mind. They're dead. They're dead. The blocking did not work. Rest in peace.
Yeah. So as I said, that's the first.
You did not stay human.
That was the first convoy that you come across, and that is supposed to teach you about those big meaty boys. And the big meaty boys, you probably want to light them on fire because, again, this was the first one you came across. You wouldn't have most of those cool tools that Steven was using, like the cattle prod or the firecrackers or anything like that.
For sure, yeah. Important stuff to maybe use if you're about to fight one of those guys and like drop down on them from 30 feet above and try to drop kick one in the back. Yeah, for sure.
Right, and the big patches of oil, you can light those on fire to, thin the herd as opposed to wading in like the Punisher and just swinging.
Right, yeah. Kind of a bad idea to try that. Like just, if
That's
you
how you assert dominance over the zombies, though.
But maybe you'll get lucky and the meaty boy will go away. Sometimes that does happen.
Well,
enemies, yes. See, enemies aren't stuck in a spot. Sometimes you'll come to a convoy or whatever, and there will be a ton of enemies. Sometimes you'll come and there will only be a few. Sometimes there will be bandits. It's sort of a roll of the die. And Steven lucked out. So the second time they came, the big meaty boy is gone.
But this lady is here, but not for long. I should probably invest in some new weapons and some mods and stuff. We'll probably wrap it up here pretty quickly, but I will show kind of the first major settlement that you unlock in this game, which is called the Bazaar. We'll show that real quick to just kind of show where you do a lot of... I've been picking up all these materials and stuff throughout the game here. We'll show where you turn those in and like do crafting and stuff like that, or buy blueprints to get better crafting materials, better crafting upgrades, that sort of thing real quick. There's one more ambulance here that I want to open up though. For instance, you can see I only have one lockpick left. I have to craft those.
Oh, perfect.
Like I said... Skyrim superfan.
Just flexing right there.
Listen,
I would have broke that lockpick like 8 times to even find where to turn it.
Listen, Collin, and I feel like Mike knows where I'm coming from with this. I have played that specific lockpicking minigame so many goddamn times in my life across 16 video games. I got it, bro. It's fine.
There wasn't even a jiggle to see if it's fine. That was just like, you already knew. You know what? You stay human. You are already human.
It's the one thing that zombies can't ever take from us, lockpicking technology.
Exactly.
Okay, well, this doesn't want to work.
No, you have to climb to the side. Yeah.
Oh,
so if you
boy.
look at the CC, kind of like makes a path with the torn out pieces.
Yeah. Okay.
This is in fact one of the first sections where they're like, "Hey, try to get up here." No, you can't.
Oh yeah, during that initial like kind of chase sequence. Yeah, you're right.
So that's the thing with this game though is when you're starting early on, you'll struggle with the parkour and kind of like your stamina. But as you progress and you unlock new abilities, like I could probably jump that if there's like a vent nearby. Because I have the ability to like just launch Aiden like 50 feet into the air with like no recourse at all or defying physics.
And that big blue X, that was a
Safe jump
they
point.
are around. They are like mattresses and stuff in trash bins. Those are safe jumps. Basically, you can jump as high as you want and fall onto that, and you'll be fine.
Fanbyte is not responsible if you actually do that. Please don't do that. It's
Yeah, in
not
real life, yeah. No,
please don't do that. Please.
Do it, but also we're not responsible if you do that. But do it though.
Yeah.
So this is the Bazaar. This is kind of the first area of the game. This is actually something that they emailed us to let us know that they have patched. Because the first time you are sent here, or the first time we were sent here, people watching this will not encounter this by the sound of it. The first time I was sent here, it gave me a big yellow circle on the map showing the Bazaar, and it said, "Hey, meet the people of the Bazaar. Go and talk to them. Hang out." And I was like, "Sure, cool. That sounds great." And then they just kept showing me that icon, and no matter how many people I talked to, nothing happened, and I was like, what the fuck is going on? And it turned out that actually what the game was telling you to do was to explore the whole map and look for people to talk to and do quests for and stuff like that over time. But the game did not tell me that, so I know this place like the back of my hand, because I have walked around here in circles about 57 times. It says they're out of water, there's a lady over here who's hitting on another lady, but the other lady isn't gay, but she doesn't know that. These guys over here, this guy, he sells some stuff that you can use for upgrades. This guy sells some other stuff. There's a guy here who has been accused of poisoning somebody, but he says that he doesn't sell water, except he actually does sell water. There's an exit over here. You can go up into the rafters. There's some bridges. Over there is where you go and sleep at night, and you have like a little stash for your stuff. People over here, she hates me. Up here, there's a little bed, and there's a guy over there. He doesn't like it when I come up close to him like this over here. There's haystacks in the corner here. There's some bridges. I don't know how to get up there, but I can see them. Anyway, I know this place really fucking well.
So as Steven mentioned across there, again, there are a lot of small stories in here where they're trying to sort of fill out the world, and that works. But it's not like, I would say, like super impactful.
No.
So this was the one where the PR was like, it's got, what was it, like 500,000 words. It's like, that's more than Anna Karenina. A lot of it is just incidental dialogue. I mean, it's fine. Yes, someone had to write all that stuff.
It's very funny.
Yeah, you might
And
say that
good
some
for
of the
them.
dialogue is a lady saying like, "Hey, do you want to meet up tomorrow?" And then she says, "Oh, I'm not really." And then the other lady says, "Oh, sorry, I just assumed you were." "Oh, no, that's okay. I mean, oh yeah, no, yeah, let's hang out tomorrow. Maybe we could just be friends." "Oh, okay, that sounds good." And maybe if, I don't know, if you were to walk around the Bazaar in a circle 57 times, you might hear that line of dialogue over and 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 over again about 470 times.
That'd be crazy though, to just walk around the Bazaar for 2 hours.
Yeah, who would do that?
Madness, absolute madness.
They delayed this game a number of times, you know? Like, clearly this game was very difficult to make, and I think they've done a good job with it overall. I think it's a pretty damn fun game that stands to. They already put out a thing showing their roadmap for future content. They really supported. We've said that a couple times, but specifically, the first game had a big expansion that added like vehicles and like driving around.
Yep, they had co-op, a lot of different multiplayer modes. They had
They made
following, which added vehicles. They
Yeah.
kept supporting Dying Light 1 for a long time.
I want to say they put out new DLC for that game like 2 weeks ago.
All right,
It's
now,
entirely possible. They probably put out some like what's it called? So over there you see one zombie is awake. Most of them are asleep, but there is one awake zombie.
Yeah, there's usually like a scout.
notably, this is during the day. This is supposed to be an activity you do at night when the zombies clear out. But they have no fear. They have blocking, so they're just going to soldier on and kill the infected. But
Yeah, Steven, again, this is full of people, zombies, and you see the little yellow bar under that one. That's the zombie being like, what? Is perhaps there's somebody here?
Nope. No person is here. Only
If you got around this, are you seriously? Okay, all right, cool.
look, Mike, we're not on their level.
Like a shade in the dark.
This is such the opposite of Mike and I's playstyle. Mike and I are so very calculating and very regimented in how we go about this. And Steven, they're out here just defying the game's laws, breaking them. Ooh, come on, don't break that lockpick. You only got one.
Not even a whisper.
Yeah. Wait.
You only got one lockpick, except lockpicks are crafted through scrap, which you find everywhere. So
yeah, I have one lockpick, which is to say I have about 600,000 lockpicks because that's how much scrap I have right now.
it's very much that Fallout, pick up everything that moves. I don't even think there's no weight limit or anything, so whatever, just pick everything up.
I think you have a backpack that there's a limit to how many things you can have. Maybe not even that, honestly, by the look of it.
There's a limit to your weapons and your armor, and I think that's it. I think your consumables, your throwing items, your junk is unlimited, which is really nice, honestly.
Bold.
See, and now the Horde, they know, and then
they know that the wireless controller battery is low.
They know that now is the time to attack because the controller will die, and they're gonna have
get them. They're weak. A whisper.
And again, this is one of those places that you're supposed to be early on, so you wouldn't have the UV light or anything like that.
Yes, I got a bunch of free UV lights because I gave a woman, this is probably my favorite side story that I've done in the game so far. There was a woman who is a former scent manufacturer, I think is what she calls it. She's a perfume designer from the old world. And she creates a new perfume, and they're like, "Oh, what is it?" And she's like, "You're too young to remember, but it's new car smell." And he's like, "It smells like heaven. I love this."
And just this is just Steven breaking the game over their knee. It's shameful.
Hey, you know what? The game said stay human, and I listened. That's all you gotta do at the end of the day. All right. Well, on that note, I think we'll probably call it a first bite. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Thank you, Collin.
Oh, thank you for having me on and showing me your masterful lockpicking skills.
And thank you, Mike.
Thank you for showing me how to play. Just leave the stealth behind. Murder. Just running through the middle of the city. Buildings, who cares?
With me, followers! Onward to the new world!
I'm just imagining some survivor watching Steven lead a horde of zombies, some kind of
walking backwards 6,000 kilometers.
Not even a horde. One of them just gave up. It's just one zombie.
You keep trying. You'll get me eventually. Thank you, everybody. We will be back with a future First Byte. Until then,
block.
Stay human.